Okay, so I'd like to start by introducing our next speaker. Dr. Ramzi Salti will be our speaker. He's a full-time lecturer in Arabic at Stanford University since 1998. He authors his own Arabology blog and hosts a weekly radio program entitled Arabology as well, which airs on KZSU Stanford. Dr. Salti was born in Lebanon, French educated in Beirut, and he completed his high school education in Jordan. In 1983, he moved to the United States where he earned his BA in French and English, and then he went on to earn his MA and Ph.D. in comparative literature, focusing on Arabic, French, and English at the University of California, Riverside. Dr. Salti has published numerous essays and articles. His collection of short stories, The Native Informant and Other Stories, 6 Tales of Defiance from the Arab World, deals with unmentionable aspects of Arab life in parts of the Arab world and in the West. This is the 3rd year that Dr. Salti is joining us to present for the EPIC Fellows Program. And in previous years, he has shared with us alternative Arabic music, exploring the relationship of such music to social movements in the Middle East. Today, in the context of recent events in Lebanon, where the capital has been rocked by one of the most violent tragedies in recent memory, Dr. Salti will be showcasing a tribute to Beirut's indie and alternative musicians with the aim of reminding us of the role that music can play in helping us heal and rebuild. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Salti, and we're so pleased to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Denise. And hello in Arabic, marhaba. I'm so happy to see you today. I know we're all going through a really difficult time right now. And when Denise asked me to do the talk this year, I try usually to bring in happy Arabic music from, Egypt to Lebanon. I'm a huge Kulthum fan. If you don't know who she is, I think Heidi just gave me a thumbs up. Heidi, Kawkab al-Sharq. So I usually like to bring in a sample from all around to sort of maybe go against the stereotype that all Middle Eastern, whatever that word means, or Arabic music sounds the same or whatever. It's more about trying to show what the new generation is doing with music, and they are doing such amazing things. They are fusing genres. They get accused sometimes of, sort of exoticizing their own culture or being sort of too influenced by the West, whereas others will tell you they're not influenced enough and they're too closed off. No matter what we're going to call this genre music, I let the artist sort of tell me what genre they're, specializing in. But I think, a word like independent music works, maybe alternative music, but not in a negative way, alternative to commercial music, which really rules the radio stations and the music TV stations in the Arabic speaking world. And so the music that I like, although I'm too old to be part of that generation, obviously, is this new kind of independent, fiercely independent music that's coming out from all over the Arab world, and that perhaps started with the Arab Spring back in 2011. I use the word spring very cautiously these days, but I was one of those people who back in 2011 was very optimistic about what I saw was going on. And that's probably a topic for another lecture, what has happened to the Arab Spring and where. But the music of the Arab Spring, or the music that was born within that historical junction, continues today. And so the governments may have changed, people may have changed, the mainstream may have changed, but these underground musicians continue to produce very courageous music that I think is worth your attention. Denise told me to come back and sort of introduce you to that music, and I was about to do that when the recent events in Lebanon happened. And then I felt very troubled about how am I going to present this in light of the tragedy that has happened. I don't want to bring you down, but at the same time, I can't ignore the tragedy that has happened in my birthplace, Lebanon. And so I decided to take this approach, and I hope you'll go with me today on this journey, where perhaps when you take away so much from people, when you're subjected to so much, as we all are, music is something they can't take away from you. You can always sing, if nothing else. You can always let that become your therapeutic tool against oppression, against corruption, against whatever we may be feeling, perhaps even against Corona. So today's lecture is going to really focus on Lebanese indie musicians. They are like my kids, although, I don't know them all personally, but I've kind of met them at some time in my career, and I owe it to them today. This is why I wanted this recorded. Of course, nobody else will show on the recording, but I wanted to share with them in Beirut, they're mostly in Beirut, the fact that their music was listened to by a group of amazing people today, the Epic Fellows, and that, I'm trying at least to do my share to get their message across. And as you will see, they are so creative. They work with almost no budgets, and yet the music is so powerful that you almost feel bad that they are not signed up by a major record label. But then you have to ask, once you sign up for a major record label, with that comes restrictions and censorship, and then they probably wouldn't have the freedom that they have. So it's kind of like a catch-22, but here we go. So I'm going to share this little PowerPoint presentation with you today. And I'm going to tell you right away, if you look at the graphics, this is not me. I am not an artist in any way. But this was done by a young Jordanian digital artist whose name is Tamer El Ahmar. And Tamer does these kind of digital works. I should mention him and give him a little plug here. So he did this graphic for me, and it shows the singers and the musicians that we're going to talk about today. So looking at this, first of all, I want to draw your attention to the, I shouldn't say goddess Heidi, to the lady in the middle, who is this year 85 years old. She is there in the center of this graphic as a symbol of Lebanon. Her name is Fairuz, and I'm going to talk about her in the beginning. But I'm going to do something really radical. I'm going to shift from one of the most popular singers in Arabic music history, only rivaled by Kulthum perhaps, to the new generation. And so that's why I decided to call the talk From Fairuz to Mashrou Leila. They're so different. Nobody would ever talk about both these musicians in the same talk. But it's to show you that even these young musicians who are as young as my kids, if I had kids, they'd be that age. And so, they all credit Fairuz with their own musical education and journey. If you have been to Lebanon, if you know any Lebanese people, you know that Fairuz for us is part of every morning. Everyone says we begin our morning with a cup of coffee and a Fairuz song. And as long as we're able to do that, then the world still has hope. Fairuz is still alive and well. She's in Beirut right now. And I'm going to begin by talking about her and then segue to the other musicians that you see in this graphic. So we say in Arabic, ahlan wa sahlan, which means welcome, but it also means much more than welcome. It's almost like welcome, you are among family, ahl, and all shall be easy. And everything will be sahil. So it's a way to greet someone, but also make them feel at home. So I hope you feel at home during this presentation. Please feel free to type any comments you want in the chat, but because of the multitude of windows that I have open, I see somebody already sent one. It's going to be a little difficult for me to get to the chat till the end, but I'm leaving plenty of time to go through the chat question. So if you put a chat question in there, I am going to get to it, don't worry, at the end. And if you feel like chiming in anytime, feel free, or make a note, and we can come back to that slide later. But again, thank you all for coming today, and thank you for allowing me to share this music, which has been on my Spotify playlist nonstop. Every time I get sad and I see the state of the world, I listen to these musicians, and somehow I feel better, and I get a much needed injection of hope, and it keeps me going. So the old man you see in the bottom picture on the screen is yours truly. As Denise said, I've got a radio show here on KZSU 90.1 FM, which is Stanford's radio station. I called it Arabology. And again, it's sort of my attempt to introduce American listeners to music to Arabic music, because whenever I play Arabic music, people like it. People dance to it, they cry to it, they feel it, even if they don't speak the language. But there's always the question about what is the topic, what are they talking about? So that's the purpose of my show, Arabology. And of course, everybody is welcome to check that out. I have all my podcasts housed on soundcloud.com. So in terms of moving on today, I'm gonna tell you that this little graphic you see, that's a link to the YouTube playlist that I compiled just for you guys today. That's a public playlist on YouTube. You don't have to follow along right now, but if you want to revisit some of the songs we're going to play and feature today, you can go to that playlist. If nothing else, search YouTube for Ramzi Salti. You'll find my YouTube channel, and you'll find this playlist to be featured right there on my channel. Because obviously today we're only going to play very short segments from certain songs. We are not going to have the time to play the whole thing. But I'm hoping that you will be so disappointed when I press pause that you will later go to this playlist and listen on your own. If whatever you're doing in this weekend, let it play in the background. You'll find yourself oddly uplifted. Again, if you little if you take a picture of that with your phone, with your iPhone or with your regular phone, that actually is a link, that graphic, to the playlist. It would open it on your phone, so you could be on your computer and have that on your phone. I'm not suggesting anybody do that today. I want to do the work today, and I want you to enjoy. But again, that is available on the publicly on YouTube. So I'm going to start by showing you images of my birthplace, Lebanon, where I was born and raised. I was born in 1966 there. And I guess I didn't realize it then, but I had a pretty good childhood. I grew up by the Mediterranean, beautiful weather. People would always say, wow, in Lebanon, you could ski in the mountains in the morning, and by afternoon, bake on the beach and get a tan. Where else can you do that, except in the land of cedars? And so this is my memory of Beirut, but I also don't want to either exoticize it or exaggerate when I say that even the Beirut I grew up in had sort of a lot of potential problems that were brewing, and it all, ended in 1975 when the Lebanese Civil War happened. I was around 11, and my world changed. So we went to Jordan, as Denise mentioned in the intro, and then I was very happy to learn to become sort of Jordanian resident for a while, and then came to the States when I was 17, and the rest is history. So this is the Lebanon that I still have in my memory. I was lucky that I didn't live through the Civil War years, although I've seen, footage, and half my family still lives there. But we thought the Civil War was, quote unquote, over until this. These are almost the same places that you saw in the previous slide. And this was August, last month, on the 4th of August, 2020. And I'm sure you've heard about it, because even mainstream media in the US, which usually ignores issues in the Arab world, actually showed us some of these horrible images of this explosion that occurred at the port in the city of Beirut. And there were 2 explosions, resulting in at least 200 people who died, 6,000 and injuries. So billions, almost 15 billion in property damage. But most tragically, perhaps, is 300,000 people became instantly homeless. Now, you know, I have such an affinity with people who live in refugee camps, having, been a refugee myself and running from Lebanon to Jordan. But this area that this happened in was such a vibrant area. This was the area for cafes and artists. And, so the people who were affected the most were the very musicians that I'm going to talk to you about today. In some of the pictures on the slide that you're looking at, you can see the before and after. I mean, you look at the port. Now, I would love to get into the theories that explain why this happened. There are so many. I think we would be here all day, and I would love to actually, have that discussion. But obviously, I'm going to focus on music today. There's still people are not sure. Maybe somebody's behind it. Maybe it was intentional. Maybe it was an accident. But I think most people understand that even if it were an accident, it was caused by a lack of conscience on the part of the Lebanese government, which has been, sadly to say, corrupt. And because of the way they have mismanaged money and have abused their power, they have led a port in Beirut with a storage, to have these very, 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate were housed there for who knows how many years. Now, who housed them there? Why? There are theories there, but that doesn't change the fact that how could you house such dangerous material in a very vibrant part of the city and nobody knew about it? And then whether this was done intentionally or not, this explosion, the fact is it wouldn't have happened if it didn't exist. And it has, really enraged people in Lebanon, and I hope the world to see to what degree the Lebanese have been suffering silently for years. It has, when this happens, you feel like you have nothing more to lose. And so we're seeing demonstrations in the street despite the smoke, despite Corona. People with masks are down in the street saying, enough is enough. And so among these people is Fairuz, the lady I told you about. She is a symbol of Lebanon, and dare I say, I think all people in the Middle East and the Arab world, let's just say all over the world, have come to appreciate her. Thank you, Heidi, for the applause. And you say Fairuz, people say Lebanon. You say Lebanon, people say Fairuz. There's a saying that as long as Fairuz is alive, there is hope. She's 85, so Allah yatawwal umrah. May she live a long time, but I don't want Lebanon's future to be tied in with Fairuz. She is mortal after all. Her real name is Nuhad Haddad. Her life story is quite fascinating, and it's a tale of woe and joy and success despite the odds. But if I was going to start this presentation today and take you away, it would be with Fairuz singing for Lebanon. How much better can life get? The song is called بحبك يا لبنان. I love you, O Lebanon. When she takes the stage and she starts singing this, beginning with I love you, Lebanon, بحبك يا لبنان. And I've been there. I was privileged enough to attend one of her concerts years ago. The chemistry in the room, what happens when she says those three words, بحبك يا لبنان, I love you, Lebanon, you think an earthquake just happened. The whole joint starts shaking. People's tears are going. We're looking for Kleenex. She said three words. This is a 2-hour concert, but the first three words, the applause, is like 10 minutes of waiting for her to reprise. I think some of you might be skeptical, thinking Ramzi's exaggerating. Well, watch this. بحبك يا لبنان يا وطني بحبك يا لبنان. So you see the reprise. I mean, she started to say, and they overwhelmed her with applause that she literally had to stop. And there's that stare. You know, she's looking, going, when do I go again? You know, you know, too bad we don't have a shot of the audience, but you know, they're all. So Fairuz really established what I would call modern Lebanese music. Before her, it was, of course, Kulthum and the amazing Egyptian musicians who live on in our hearts forever, from Abdel Wahab to Abdel Halim to Kawkab al-Sharq, even singers like Asmahan, who made it big in Egypt. Fairuz actually has sung about Beirut and about Lebanon for many, many years. This song is not new, and it's called Sakaru Shawari. They barricaded the streets. So I won't read the Arabic. Heidi, feel free to read the Arabic. But I will give you you know, an idea about what this is about. She's talking about Beirut in times of war and strife. They barricaded the streets. They turned off the signals. They planted cannons in public squares and streets. Where are you, my love? After you, my love. Our love is crying out in despair with unbearable distances between us. The love here is Beirut. So it could be personified in a person that Fairuz loves or is singing for, but there's also an idea that maybe it's Lebanon. So when you read this and you don't know the context, you may think she's talking about the recent explosion, because that's exactly what they're doing again. And this is a very old song, and it's to tell you how much things have not changed, unfortunately, for a new generation. My generation thought we learned about the horrors of war in Lebanon. We learned not to hate, not to judge people based on their religion or their background, but I guess it's still going on. So I won't play this one, but please go to the YouTube playlist and watch it on your own. It's called Sakaru Shawara. They barricaded the streets. And now, are you ready, everybody, to see Fairuz finally made a public appearance after years and years? She's such a recluse. No interviews. Nobody sees her. Every couple of years, you get a rumor that she, God forbid, passed away. And then she just made an appearance last month, 85 years old, in the age of Corona. And the appearance she made was when President Macron of France decided to visit Lebanon. A visit that can be seen as very kind and humane, or can be seen as a potential resurrection of the French colonial experience in Lebanon. It depends where you are on the spectrum. But what is quite worthy of mention is the fact that Macron, the president, who is in many ways trying to reflect the Lebanese sentiment against the government, they're so disgusted, went from the airport, from Paris to Beirut airport, and from Beirut airport not to the president's palace, not anywhere else, right to Fairuz's residence, because Fairuz is known not to be sectarian, never took sides, never said Muslim, Christian, Shia, Catholic, nothing. She's always sung about peace. She does not sing for like kings or political figures. She could sing to her country, but she was not going. She's turned down offers for millions of dollars to sing for kings, let's say, in the Arab world. And so here she is, guys. She's alive and well. She's 85. This is her home in Lebanon. Look at how simple her living room is. You know, this is not a woman who is, you know, she's the most important voice in Arabic music today, living voice. And yet, look at the simplicity with which she welcomed Macron to her home. And if you look really close at one of the pictures, perhaps the one on the lower left, you'll see she's actually wearing a visor because of the corona. So I wish I could zoom in here, but all these pictures came out, and how clever of her, because I was thinking she's 85. This is the age of corona. And Lebanon's not, you know, immune. She's going to meet the president, and God forbid, you know, he's been traveling. And so I love the fact that at 85, she chose to wear this invisible mask so we could still see her beautiful smile at 85. And she can still talk to him, but she maintained social distancing. And she also delivered a message of peace to the world through Macron, who apparently is a huge fan himself. I didn't know that. He has a favorite Fairuz song, and you know. So this is just to tell you who started who started it all, Fairuz. And Fairuz has become sort of the mother, perhaps now the grandmother of all these musicians who we'll talk about today. And so among those, here's a young Lebanese singer. Her name is Talia, and she took the song called Li Beirut, which is a song by Fairuz, and she remixed it very simply with the guitar. And do I have any Spanish-speaking people here today? Can you tell me this Concierto de Aran? Because I don't speak Spanish. Denise, you speak Spanish, don't you? Okay, so excuse me, I'm about to ruin this language. So this Concierto de Aranjuez is a second movement. This is, so this tells you that it's not a composition by Fairuz or her late husband who used to compose her songs, but it's been Arab, it's been brought into a Lebanese reality, a song for Beirut. And I think even if you don't know the title, once you hear the music, you'll go, oh yeah. But you're going to hopefully be pleasantly surprised to hear that melody with Arabic words sung by a young lady who was influenced by Fairuz all her life. So this is a Fairuz, originally recorded by Fairuz. Here, let me play you a sample and let me know what you think. So that was Talia Lahoud resurrecting Fairuz. And if you saw at the beginning of the video, she wrote, "This is for my country, Lebanon. This is for my city, Beirut, that's been going through so much lately." So again, you would think this was released after the explosion. This was released before the explosion. And here she is. She did this video. She uploaded it, Talia Lahoud, talking about Lebanon and the tragedies. And who knew at the time what was about to happen? So again, I think it's almost prophetic that these musicians were trying to raise consciousness beforehand. So I see some chats here, and I know I said I was going to wait till the end, but I'm just too curious to see what people are writing as I speak. So I'll come back to my PowerPoint, but I'm seeing, oh, I guess this is you guys before I came in. Oh, oh, good. You guys are like enjoying this. Well, I'm glad I stopped and checked. I was hoping that the Arabic language wouldn't be a barrier, and I guess it's not. Okay, so we're back, Denise, to the PowerPoint right now, and it is full screen as far as you can see, Denise.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So you want to move from, we're going to move from Talia Lahoud to this amazing singer. They call her the soprano of Lebanon, la soprano du Liban. Her name is Tania Kassis with a K, and she, some people said, well, she will inherit Fairuz's fame. I think a lot of Lebanese, shudder at the thought of Fairuz leaving, so we don't want to think about it. But again, just listen to her voice as she sings to Beirut. The tribute is, "You are, Beirut, the land of dialogue. You were, and you still are, O Beirut, the only hope of peace." And so she begins actually with a male voice. She brings in a male voice who will introduce her song. It's from a poem taken from Lebanon, 20 Poems for One Love by Nadia Taimi. And basically, it's called Unshudat Beirut, the hymn of Beirut. Let me play her, and I hope you'll enjoy her voice.
Let her be courtesan, scholar, or saint. A peninsula of din, of color and of gold. Beirut has died 1,000 times and been reborn 1,000 times.
Ya Beirut, ya Beirut, ya Beirut.
Again, I hate to pause it, but how about that voice? Just all she's saying is "Oh Beirut," and again, you hear that, and it fills you with these images of Beirut as it should be, perhaps as it once was, but hopefully as it will become one day. So that's Tania Kassis. And moving from Tania Kassis to a male singer whose name is Mike Massy. I can tell you that he's kind of played with his real name, which is Mikhail El-Masih, made it Mike Massy. And this young man, when I heard that he composes his own melodies while living in Beirut with no budget, when I hear the words he uses, the lyrics, and know that he's producing everything in a homemade studio, I had to get in touch, and we ended up inviting him to Stanford. He came and he sang on stage, and we had our students learn some Arabic, and they joined him on stage. That video is available on YouTube if you want to see Stanford kids singing with Mike Massy. But again, Mike Massy, although his songs tend to be very sort of lyrical, ballads about love, they're beautiful. He also had songs way before the explosions that were very critical of life in Lebanon as it was. This is one of them, this song, and it's called Baddi Liya, which means I just want to get lost. He begins the video by saying, literally, and the lyrics are there, I am disgusted by the news, fed up with their lies night and day. I want to free myself of destruction of my surroundings, of imposed obligations and choices. So again, the voice of a new generation talking about living in Lebanon and wanting to leave, but not being able to leave because they're so connected with the soul of Lebanon and the music scene there. But at the same time, they've had enough. They watch the news and they're literally disgusted. So he produced this video, he directed this video. You're going to see him in Beirut singing this song called Baddi Liya. I'm just going to play a short segment, and it does have English subtitles.
بدي سافر بدي ضيع واللي بده يصير يصير بدي ضيع بدي غير بالمسار واعمل كل اللي ما صار وبده يصير بده يصير ضايق خلقي من بيروت من العشقة وكترة البيوت بتضيع عم بكبر والوقت يقل لازم انسى ولازم فيل بدي اطلع عالمريخ بدي زور بالتاريخ.
So, what did you think of his vocal acrobatics? I mean, he's doing this with no contract, no record company behind him, and yet it's so beautifully polished. He's such a perfectionist. He did get a break, by the way, last year, no, 2 years ago in France. They were going to stage the musical for Jesus Christ, and it's going to be in French. And I was very happy to see that they casted Mike Massy in the role of Jesus. It's nice to have, a Middle Eastern actor play Jesus, because I think contrary to how some people see Jesus in this country, he did come from there. And so to have that Middle Eastern complexion, and that there's a picture of him, he looks like the image of Christ that we get today. But again, I think he represented Lebanon very well, and I'm glad that they cast as a newbie, a new guy from Lebanon, and French audiences loved him. Moving on from Mike Massy to Yasmine Hamdan. Have you heard of her? She needs a couple of lectures on her own. She is so defiant, yet so kind. She just does her own music, and she relies on this whispery quality in her voice. She started out in a duo in Lebanon called Soap Kills, As-Sabun Yaqtul. And then she made it, or she left the duo, and she became a solo singer. And again, she has a very problematic relationship with Beirut and with Lebanon, just like so many of us. She loves it, but eventually the situation got so bad there for her. This is a few years ago, that she went and lived in Paris. And now she lives in Paris. She records only in Arabic, and she's pretty well known in Europe. I'm not going to say too much about her because you can't say enough, but let me try to show you a segment of this video, which is called Balad. Balad means country, or even city in a way, and she's talking about Lebanon. So in this video, Yasmine Hamdan, who was entirely shot in Beirut, is sort of showing things that are so eerily prophetic, because she's the citizen who's talking about living in Beirut. There's a point in the video where she's going to go into a TV studio, take over the airwaves, kick out the newscaster, and it's almost like the people have taken over the system. She's also a very powerful feminist voice, talking about women's rights in Lebanon. And so you put that together, and there's sort of a melancholic feeling to this, as well as a very revolutionary feel to this. This would be banned. No record company would ever sign her up in the Middle East because of what she's talking about. But she has gained popularity, I'm glad to see, by including, older generations like me. And anyway, so I'd love to hear at the end what you think of this video. It's called the Balad.
كله هواجس حرب وفتنة كله بزهر كله محبط أنا اللي زعيم زابلني أنا عم صارع كل يوم أنا غلا البلد فالجنة أنا المواطن المخدوم أنا رهيب الوضع الأمني
lyric, I am the citizen abandoned, I am the citizen betrayed, I am the citizen deposed. The footage you saw there of the parliament and the government, that's real footage from the real Lebanese politicians. You know, they're sitting, some of them are dozing off in their chairs. This is during a meeting that's supposed to help the country. And yeah, and so Yasmine Hamdan comes in and takes over the government, and there's the Lebanese flag. And I love the fact that it's a woman who came in and sort of woke them up, you know, at least musically. So that's Yasmine Hamdan, definitely worth your time at your leisure to check out her amazing. Every song she's released is this powerful, I think. Tania Saleh is another singer that is worth your attention. I'm actually going to skip over her today because of time, and I also want to hear your questions. But note her name, and it's also in the playlist that you all received through Denise. So she usually sings these amazing ballads. This is one of them called Beirut Windows. She's also fiercely independent, but she released a new CD, and in it, she included this poem by a poet whose name is Yusuf al-Ibn. So this is a poem that was written in Arabic and that she took and put music to. The title looks a little bit maybe more rebellious than the content. A quarrel with God, a quarrel with Allah. But it's really done in such a sweet way by the poet, where he's like talking to God, and God is telling him, look, Lebanese people, I gave you beautiful weather, cedar trees, you know, a beautiful place to live. And what have you done? You've turned it into a sectarian place with 14 religions, all of which are represented in the government. Whether that's a good thing or not is another thing. But, you know, it's really a very playful but powerful way of a dialogue between a poet and between God. And so a lot of people said, you know, this was really, you know, drastic, and this was too much, that she's, you know, singing this. It's almost, you know, as if she's going against God or her concept of God. But no, if the poem is available, as you can see, in Arabic, and I wish we had time to play it, but definitely worth your time. And moving from Tania to Zeid Hamdan, this young man is in Lebanon right now. He's one of the people who said, please, Ramzi, if you're going to talk to these amazing fellows, because I've been very excited about talking to you all week, and Denise knows this. So, you know, he said, please play a segment from my video, General Suleiman, but let them know that I did this with zero budget. I said, fine, I'll do it for you. So here I'm delivering. Basically, he brought a large, sample from Lebanese society. Literally, people walking on the street, and he'd say, hey, you want to be in my new video? And so you're going to see in the video real people sort of mouthing along to his song. None of them are paid actors, zero budget, but he called the song General Suleiman. General Suleiman. Well, who is General Suleiman? Technically, he's a fictional character, but I think everybody knew he was talking about the president of Lebanon, and he was poking fun of him, talking about how out of touch he is with reality and how the suffering of people is beyond him. He's also sort of egocentric. Do you think that stopped certain people in the Lebanese authorities from arresting him? No, they arrested poor Zeid Hamdan and threw him in jail for 3 days because of this song. Oddly enough, or maybe, you know, karma, it launched him into stardom in Lebanon by the people. So here, it looks like a funny video, and I hope you laugh and enjoy it, but the message is quite powerful. Here we go, General Suleiman.
General Suleiman, General
that's him, General Sulaiman, and I think he introduced an older actor there who kind of looks like the president a bit. Anyway, he was released after 3 days because they couldn't really hold him since he didn't really mention the president by name. Anyway, Zeid Hamdan. There, I didn't say it if you're watching the recording, and the epic fellows look really happy from what I see in gallery view. So message received, I hope. And then finally, I want to talk about Arabic rap, which sounds, really jarring to some people. What? There are rappers in the Arab world? And if people are doing hip hop and rap in the Arab world, are they merely taking, American hip hop or African American hip hop and sort of putting Arabic lyrics to it? My answer is a resounding no. It's the way they have borrowed hip hop and then turned it into their own expression of their reality is amazing. This group is called Fareeq El Atrash. It's a play, maybe not Farid, right? It's Fareeq El Atrash. That's a Arabic joke there. But anyway, do you want to hear Arabic rap? It exists, and even though you might not understand the words, you'll probably hear the passion. And the song is called appropriately Corruption. And again, released many years ago before the explosion. Now everyone's talking about corruption. If maybe people had been more in tune to the underground music scene in Lebanon, they would have been less surprised and maybe would have done something sooner, risen up sooner. Anyway, here's some Lebanese rap for you.
لو كان فيني اعمل منيح كنت عملت من زمان. الحياة بير غميق ما بتصبح راحت عليك. الفايشين اصحاب وزن تقيل على الميزان بالذات. المرسمين اصحاب البدلات كل مناسبات. ما عنده وقت يحكيك قد ما بيجي مكالمات. تعرف مصير اموال البلد كله بين ايدات. بيستدرجك تيوقعك فخ الفائدات. بيقشط الدولار فبيقشط قلبك بين رجليك.
They're actually talking about the dollar and how the dollar, because Lebanon has been using the dollar, our currency, the lira, has gone down the drain, and how that affects the country politically too, a dependence on the dollar, and it's a whole thing. They've been addressing that. This is now the hottest issue they're talking about in Lebanon, trying to get away from using the dollar, and that people are having their bank assets frozen. Not a good thing, but at the same time, how do you stop the bleeding? And that song years ago by this group talked about exactly that. So remember the name of my presentation today, from Fairuz to Mashrou Leila, where I'm going to end with Mashrou Leila. Mashrou Leila is a Lebanese band that came to life about 10 years ago. A bunch of students at the American University in Beirut got together for a workshop, and they called themselves Mashrou Leila, the Leila Project, or sometimes Project of One Night. And this singer, the lead singer, his name is Hamid Sinno, and he is such a powerful, fearless voice in alternative Arabic music. One of the things he did, in addition to singing against, misogyny, he really started to talk about homophobia in the Arab world and in Lebanon. And boy, he got death threats, and yet he continues. I think he included some of the death threats that were pinned to his door in one of his videos. He's such a courageous young man. He's Muslim. His message is, homophobia exists in all religion, has existed. Why is Muslim homophobia or Islamic homophobia often seen as particularly dangerous any more than any other sort? So I think he is considered the first openly gay Arab singer ever. His name is Hamid Sinno, and here I'll show you the reaction of his fans, or the group's fans, when they perform, and we'll end with that.
The Arab world's alternative music scene is booming. Lebanese band Mashrou Leila performing in Jordan's capital Amman at its historic citadel. Their lyrics are satirical and the issues they discuss often controversial, and they're fast gaining ever more fans across the region.
So definitely check them out. Their videos are fantastic. They gained global fame. I was so surprised, and you know, they came to San Francisco. You couldn't get a ticket. I went, I stood in line, there were no tickets. I was happy about that, but I was asking people in line, do you speak Arabic? And they said, no, this is way beyond language. This group is really, you should hear their sounds, how they throw their soul into every performance. And so I was glad, you know, to see a Lebanese band gain notoriety, and yet they refuse to kind of become complicit with certain Western ideologies, or, you know, they keep, you know, talking about an independent Lebanon. They're not one of those Lebanese groups who tend to sort of adopt French as their language. And, you know, they've recorded a couple of tracks in English, but nothing really big. Their CDs are jewels. They are from beginning to end. So check out some of their songs. This is me. I'm ending with a very egocentric way. For my radio show, you can see every singer I talked about today with me. And so since they're my kids' age, and since I don't have kids, I call them my adopted children. So I just had to end with this collage today. And that's it. So I hope that today, and I ran over, of course, I hope that I gave you an idea about what independent Lebanese music sounds like, or even Arabic music in general. You've got the playlist. Go discover. Email me if you want more. You know, I'm so happy to talk about Arabic music 24 hours a day. So, looking at the chat here, I love the comments. Somebody teared up. Thank you. Yes, somebody said that the song reminds them of of Polish songs. I think was that about Mashrou Leila? Whoever wrote the comment, are you here? Anyway, Mashrou Leila's music's the one you heard at the end. They're known for like borrowing from different genres. It sounds like Polish meets Arabic meets Hebrew meets, you know, it's just all over the place. And so, no, I don't see any questions. And thank you, Denise, for your kind ad.